But this divide and conquer strategy, this is almost everywhere.
Yeah.
It is
First,
everywhere.
we have the Iraqis invading, going to kill the Iranians in the
Yeah.
Iraq-Iranian war, and we were supporting the Iraqis. And then when the Iraqis win, we have them fighting the Kuwaitis, and then we go in and invade Iraq, and we turn the two sides against each other, the
Yeah.
Shias and the Sunnis, so they can kill each other. And right at the moment, we're supporting the Kurds, but if the Kurds ever start to win, I'm sure we're going to start bombing
Well,
them.
it's not so good in the Kurds aren't doing so well anymore, but
Because the Turks are getting a little upset with.
yeah,
maybe
you know,
a-
I always want, what always strikes me is clear, but maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that all the countries that have oil would be really happy to sell oil to us.
Mhm.
We just pay for it because they need the money. And it's not that they won't sell us the oil, it's that the major oil companies, including the British oil companies and Dutch, I suppose, want to get in there and be able to invest in it and take away most of the profits, which we do. And as soon as the leader of a country nationalizes the oil and says, look, we want to keep the profit home and maybe take care of our people like Chavez is, but he's being demonized now for that, we go to war. You know, they're our buddies until they nationalize their oil or their resources, and pretty soon it'll be water. That's you know, that's the next thing.
The next-
And you know, they would be happy to sell us their oil, but we're looking for control over the pipelines because in that way we can control the world. But we're not getting away with it because the Chinese are beginning to step in. And then, am I wrong?
No, I was going to just move to a generalization about Liberty Union.
Okay.
And no other party in the United States, but certainly in Vermont, takes the view that Liberty Union takes about the use of violence as a tool of policy. Liberty Union, when Carter adopted draft registration in 1979, Liberty Union responded with the longest statement in our one-page platform, incidentally, people can look it up. There are some amendments that we began taking place about 6 years ago, and they've now been finalized and will be up on the website pretty soon. But you can look and see what Liberty Union is about and some of our relationship to the Socialist Party. There are links to the Socialist Party. You can find that at libertyunionparty.org. I mean, it's as simple as it gets. Now, I got to tell you that I don't know enough about even how to handle a computer. I've never even accessed that website. I just know it's there, and people who know how to do that can do it. I'm a kind of dummy when it comes to this stuff.
Me too.
And then what I do is I call the guy who manages the site, who was once our governor candidate, and I say, do you think we could put this article or that article up on the website? And he says, sure, and he does it. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. But one of the things that we stand for is that government should not use violence. Government has to abandon violence as a tool of policy.
And I think violence includes poverty, and it includes the death penalty, and it includes, right? I mean, that's a violent
It's
thing.
a very broad, is the violence that does damage to individuals and that does damage to other countries. We have to abandon violence as a tool of policy, and the United States is the worst offender. You can just look at the percentage in prison, the death sentences that are being, the new executions that are happening since I think 76 or so. We are a country built on violence. I mean, when are we going to give back California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado to Mexico from whom we stole it?
You
I
know,
wonder when we're going to pay reparations to the Vietnamese.
Yeah.
It's admitted that
Never.
the war was unjust, so shouldn't
Yeah.
we pay them for the damage it caused?
no, and they're
And-
still dying from Agent Orange over there, and their
Right.
kids are still, that'll be a couple more 100 years that they'll be having.
When Afghanistan happened, Liberty Union instantly, I mean, that was, I think, the 28th of September when we issued a statement by consensus that said we should be paying reparations not only to Iran, to Vietnam, but we named a number of other countries, and to the people of Afghanistan. And we've been out front on these issues of violence all the time. And it's one of the reasons, since the media really supports all this violence, that Liberty Union candidates don't get equal exposure, and their views don't get. Also, we don't get any money. The people that we're talking about are the people who finance the Democrats, the Republicans, the Independents, the whole bunch of them. But they don't finance us, I guarantee you.
You got $1 last night?
I got $1 last night.
Well, you talk about the media, but the media is really owned by our wealthy rulers.
Right.
And so it's more of a propaganda machine than anything else.
I like to quote Chomsky on this. He says in Necessary Illusions that the debate in a faux democracy, like faux pearls, right, is forced to rage within the parameters set by the ruling elites, so that any thinking outside of those parameters is thought of as unthinkable thought. And so often I start out with that quote when I'm talking, and I say, Liberty Union is about bringing you unthinkable thoughts. Right? That's what we're here for, to bring you truth, because the truth is hidden within those parameters set by the ruling elites.
That's one of the reasons I think that it's important to, when we talk about the four major parties in Vermont, that we should include Liberty Union in the debates, because if you don't, issues like the 9/11 terrorist attacks and the 9/11 truth movement, they are swept under the rug. Those are subjects that the other parties don't consider.
None of them will talk about it.
No. Yeah. But Ralph Nader spoke about it on Sunday. He spoke at UVM, and he had pretty much the same view as you do. But of course, he's excluded also from the.
Yeah, that's the way you get excluded, by telling the truth. I have a friend who says, if you're going to tell the truth, you better have 1 foot in the stirrup.
1 foot in the stirrup.
In the stirrup. I read an article in which you said the unthinkable, but somehow or other we managed to normalize the unthinkable, as if in some way we don't have to think about the dead children. You know, very often you don't ever read about the dead. You don't even see the dead coming home. They come home at night. They bring them home at night. But I read in some article I read, probably in The Nation or something like that, it described, someone was describing the town of Fallujah after we demolished it. He said
with white
everything
phosphorus.
was gray except for the pink of a dress of a child lying dead in the streets. And that image of the gray city in one little pink dress down there. I mean, that's what people don't, that they've been shut off from seeing this. And when we go into the high schools now, as counter recruiters, one of the posters I've made is pictures of children who were either wounded, you know, a little kid lying in bed with half an arm and maybe a leg gone and trying to smile for the camera, or the beautiful little girl who's wearing purple and has lost her both feet and she's dead and she's being carried. I mean, these pictures, that's quite a beautiful picture, but it's horrifying. But it's almost as if people have forgotten the war's going on. It's been so long, and the unthinkable has been sort of normalized. So we try to wake people up. Look, this is still happening. The kids look at it and say, oh my goodness, you know, and as if they'd forgotten. And I have to say, this is happening now. Yeah. On
that issue of the unthinkable, do you remember back in the 80s when they shot down the Korean jetliner, the passenger plane, the Soviet Union, and everyone on the news media said, well, it's so horrible, so unthinkable that they should shoot down a passenger plane? But now, when our government officials talk about 9/11, it's just assumed to be natural that if a passenger plane goes off course in America or it loses radio contact, the first thing you do, shoot it down.
Oh my God, that's right.
Last night on TV, they said that you don't even need a higher official. You don't have to call back to the Pentagon, or the jet pilot himself has the authority to decide that a passenger plane should be shot down.
And the Korean one is kind of interesting because of the people who were on board.
Who were they?
There were several CIA agents on board that Korean airliner. And it flew, allegedly at least, flew without lights, refused to respond to wings flopping. And that's only because the CIA was on board, I'm sure.
Well, we shot down another plane in the Mediterranean.
Oh, yeah,
It was
the Iranian...
Iranian passenger plane was shot down.
And that wasn't so bad, but when there was retaliation, that was terrible.
What was their retaliation?
I don't remember whether it
What did
was,
they
I think
do? I can't
another
remember
airliner was
yet.
shot down.